Welcome back to the Reese Report. I'm the mouth of the North, Andrew Reese, and we are doing our top 20 NHL players of all time. This is part two. We are on player 11. I am joined by Tony Barbosa and Jose Carlos Gomes for our lists. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Give us your list and let us know what you think. But we're going to continue with part two of our show and number 11 on our list. And I will start with Jose, who do you have at number 11?
I have Raymond Bork. I have, to me, he was one of the best defensemen of all time. The man could score, put up, like you said, he was like top five or whatever in defenseman scoring or whatever. He was great. The only bad thing about him was when Lemieux deked him out in the playoffs, and I felt sorry for him. He broke his ankles and stuff, but it is what it is.
It
Um,
happens.
it happens, yeah. But the man, dude, like I'm happy for him that he won his cup in Colorado.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
even Joe Saka gave him the cup after like the
Yeah.
first guy gave him the cup. So it was good. It was a nice send off to like even like you said, he was like 40 years old and he was playing 30 minutes a night. It's like insane. But he
Yeah.
deserved it, and the man is he's a true Hall of Famer, and yeah. So I have Raymond
Yeah.
Bork at
Yeah. Bork, I think, is going to be underrated for a lot of his. I think he's going to be underrated his whole life. Just because he
yeah,
wasn't flashy, but like that
yeah,
cup in Colorado was a huge thing for him
yeah,
to get
a
him
hundred percent,
the respect he deserves. But
a
Barbosa, who
hundred
do you
percent.
have at 11?
I got Martin Brodeur.
Oh, there you go.
uh, Reese, like you said, all the reasons you you said. Amazing goalie. With those Jersey teams, I, I would say a couple of the cups were maybe one cup was because of him. The other ones more stylistic. But one of them they won it because of Martin Brodeur. Um, Top in wins, shutouts. Um, just
Yeah.
an amazing goalie.
Yeah.
Amazing
The
goalie.
one the one that I give him credit for is when they swept Detroit in the final.
Yeah,
That's the one I'm like, that's the one Brodeur was like amazing when they swept Detroit.
yeah,
So and his ability to control the game with his stick handling is probably his greatest attribute
a
over
hundred
over
percent,
anything else.
a hundred
Because
percent.
you couldn't shoot the puck in on him. You shot the puck in, it
No,
was just going back out. So
yeah,
that limited what you could do as an offense. And then if you tried to carry it in, you got Stevens and Niedermeyer. Good luck with that.
mm,
Now, as I said before, this is the third time I'm saying this. Me and Barbosa did not talk about our list, but I have Paul Coffey at number 11. So, as
we
Barbosa
switched.
outlined, yes, we switched those around. Coffey was a sixth overall pick in 1980. Again, Edmonton in 79 and 80 probably had the greatest drafts in the history of the NHL. He's the single season goal record holder of 48 goals. He passed Bobby Orr in 85, 86. As Barbosa said, he's the greatest skater I've ever seen. I have never seen, maybe Connor McDavid today is comparable, but I've never seen a guy skate like Paul Coffey. Fluid, fast, straight, could do anything he wanted with the puck. Um, he also had the most points in a single game in the playoffs with 8 for a defenseman. Um,
Ooh,
so that blew me away. He also has the defense record for most points, most consecutive games with a point at 28.
yeah,
Um, he's the only D-man with multiple 40-goal seasons. That's never been done. 14th all-time in points and 7th all-time in playoff points, which is very impressive. 3 Norris trophies. Had one in Detroit after he left Edmonton, helped Pittsburgh win their first Stanley Cup. Paul Coffey did it all, and he was great. He was also considered a one-way player for most of his career until he went to Pittsburgh and Detroit and became a two-way player, which is what led to his second and third Norrises. Um, an underappreciated player who became appreciated for more than just his scoring ability. So I have Paul Coffey at number 11. One of my favorite players to watch growing up, but then again, Edmonton in general was. Now we get to the top 10. Very, very juicy here. Top 10. Barbosa, let's let you start with your first player at the top 10. Number 10.
Alex Ovechkin. When you're second in goals, all time, That means a lot. He's finally won his cup. And nobody has figured out. Yeah, how long has he been in the NHL? What,
16
12
years.
seasons, 16 years? Nobody
Yeah.
has figured out his one-timer. So the best goal
Can't stop
scorer,
it.
the best pure goal scorer I've ever seen
Yeah. Can't
right
stop that
now.
one-timer. That's for sure.
No,
So,
no. So he's in my top 10.
Jose, who do you have in your 10 of top 10?
Patrick Roy. The man was a great goalie, man, for Montreal. We took him to won him the cup in Montreal. Left him. He took him to the '93 championship game. They won the cup there too. Freaking in Colorado, he won his cups. The man's a fighter. The guy was scrapping goalies. He was telling players off. I got two Stanley Cups in my ears. I can't hear you. The man's a great coach. He's leading Quebec Ramparts to the Memorial Championship right now. The man can do it all, man. And I just think Brodeur might have the better stats than he does, but I think when it comes down to it, I think Patrick Roy, for the teams that he played with, was a better goalie than Martin Brodeur, and the teams depended more on him than maybe not the Colorado teams, but the Montreal Canadian teams. Yeah, I think they depended a lot on him, and the man came up big. And he when there was comes those big finals in the Stanley Cup, he came up big and he won the most important games. So I think Patrick Roy at number 10.
Well, I also didn't discuss my list with Jose, but I have Patrick Roy at number 10. To me, Patrick Roy is the greatest goalie of all time. He single-handedly destroyed my dreams of Wayne Gretzky winning a cup in LA. He was unbelievable in that playoffs. He won 10 straight playoff games in overtime, which has still never been done. He won 3 Conn Smites, which is the most in NHL history. That blew me away. No one else has won 3 Conn Smites. Like, to me, if you win 3 Conn Smites as a goalie, you're the best goalie of all time. He has the most playoff wins, which was a huge factor in me listing him ahead of Hasek and Brodeur. He's second all time in wins. He just didn't play as long because he tore his hip labrum late in his career and could have had to retire. 3 Vezinas, 4 cups. He also has the most wins games, playoff wins, and shutouts. So he is the best playoff goalie ever. Carried 2 Montreal teams that had no business winning the cup. The first one was in his rookie season, and then in '93, that Montreal team had no business winning the cup, and they won both cups. The last 2 cups were loaded Colorado teams, but they did need him. Like, they made the trade from Montreal, and because they needed a goalie, they weren't winning without him, and so I give him credit for that as well. They had to take on crazy Detroit teams every year in the conference final, incredible Dallas teams, and they were wars. Those series were absolute wars. And he had to come up big for them to win those series. So I got Patrick Roy. He was the 3rd round pick, 51st overall in 1984. Amazing where some of these players are drafted. I just had to write those things down. So I got Roy at number 10 on my list. Jose, you want to start off with number 9?
Number 9. I know none of you guys have him on your list, but I can't leave out my boy Dougie Gilmour. I love this man. This guy, when I first saw him play for Toronto, man, this guy is amazing. Like, dude, that guy would freaking put up the points, assists, playmaking, everything for the Leafs, man. I know he shouldn't be at number 9. I know he's not top 10 player of all time, but this is my list, and this is the guys that I grew up watching. And to me, this guy will always be. Whenever I watched hockey, he'll be the greatest Leaf. No, not even Matthews would even touch this guy's feet, because when they came to the playoffs, this man performed with broken freaking slashed freaking face, broken hands, feet. The man was still out there skating and producing points. So I have Dougie Gilmour, and he also won a cup, but not with the Leafs, but he won it with Calgary. But still, the man, and he's I think he's in the top 20 in scoring.
Oh no, he has the stats. He
Yeah,
has the stats.
He has
Yeah.
the points. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so I take my boy Dougie Gilmour.
Now, you won't get any argument with your explanation where he is, maybe, but your explanation is perfectly fine. on what you said. So, but this is your list. Great explanation. I wouldn't have him that high, but hey, you like Dougie? That's your list. Barbosa, who you got at 9?
I got Steve Eiserman at number 9. In late 80s, early 90s, was consistent 100-point player. Detroit teams were okay, but not not great teams. They were good teams,
They
and he
they
was the best
struggled in
player.
the 80s. They struggled in
Yeah,
the 80s. Yeah.
and he had,
Yeah.
and as soon as Scotty Bowman went into Detroit, he changed his style of play, which he became a two-way player, and that's when they started winning the Stanley Cups, just to show what a great leader he was. And big game player. That's a big game player. That's a big game player, Steve Eiserman. So that's why he's in my top 8, and he's got multiple cups.
Hey,
Okay.
never mind. My number 9 pick. Bet your number 9 pick in 97, 93. Never mind. I should have let you know. No, I'm
Nikolai
just joking.
Borshevsky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Eiserman did struggle in the playoffs for years. That's actually a fact. They had to go through some tough times with some bad goaltenders in Detroit before they won. And obviously Bowman taking over. Speaking of Detroit, I have Nicholas Lidstrom at number 9. Easily one of the greatest defensemen to ever play the game. Not flashy at all. What amazed me about Lidstrom was he was able to play defense without taking any penalties. This is a man who won the Lady Byng. He barely got any penalty minutes. He used his stick very well. He wasn't overly physical, but you couldn't get by him. And he was an amazing skater. You couldn't, like, he wasn't a straightforward, fast skater. He was just a guy who was very shifty. You couldn't get around him. He didn't have a long stick. He wasn't particularly tall like Chara. He just knew how to stop you. He knew to use his body to get in position. A very underrated offensive player. He never had a huge, crazy season, but he had consistent 70, 60 points every single year. He was a third-round pick, 53 overall. Detroit had an incredible run of draft picks in the 90s, which led to their success for 25 straight years of making the playoffs. He had 4 Stanley Cups, 7 Norris trophies. I mean, I think that's second to Bobby Orr all time. 1 Conn Smythe. He's 58th all time in scoring, which again for a defenseman is remarkable. And he's 12th in the playoffs all time. When you're a defenseman, you're 12th all time in points. You're great. Only Paul Coffey is ahead of him in that stat. So I got Lidstrom at 9. He's the reason, a big reason why the Wings won all their cups. I mean, I know they had other guys, but without Lidstrom, that team was nowhere near good defensively. So, and I will point out that my Penguins eventually beat them and eliminated their dynasty, but we'll get to that. Barbosa, let's go to 8. Patrick Waugh, there you go.
Mr. Patrick Waugh, number 8. Same reason why you guys had him higher. And the only other thing I have to say is he revolutionized the goaltending style that
the butterfly.
Yeah, it was all because of him. You guys named all the accolades and cups that he's won, and the style goaltending he changed that. It was never the same after when Patrick Waugh came into the league. I'll just add it to that. That's why he's in that 93 run that he had. He beat Boston in overtime, and I think in all of their games, I think was in overtime, and he was the reason why they won the games in overtime was because of him.
Yeah.
That was a tough series against Boston. I think it was in the first round. And then
that was the year the Islanders upset Pittsburgh, and it was going to be Pittsburgh Montreal, and that would have been so great. And the Islanders beat them, and they played the Islanders in the semis.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously they go and beat the Kings, and he was the reason why. That's why he has 2 Conn Smythes with both of them with Montreal. So,
and by the way, the Montreal Canadiens curse is still alive and well. You do not trade Patrick Waugh. That's all I'm going to say. Jose, who do you have at 8?
I have Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah, I expected him to be higher on your guys' list than me. Yeah,
like Barboza said, the man is second in all time in scoring. I think he deserves to be there. That one timer is amazing shot. The man plays his heart out every game. Like it's not like he doesn't take a shift off. The man's forechecking, he's hitting people, he's throwing people in the bench. The man, like you said, in the beginning of his career, he was a more of a fancier, like like score all these crazy goals. Now that he's getting older, he's just in the slot with the shot. Like he knows how to score. That's and
yeah.
he'll even with the older that he gets, the more smarter he gets to score these goals and stuff like that, right? Even when he plays for Russia, man, the man's always committed to his country. Like he's always one of the best players from Russia too. So I have Ovechkin at 8.
And at 8 for me is Joe Sakic, as Bob Cole used to say. 15th overall pick in 1987. Another player that could have been a Leaf, but I'm not going to go there. Probably one of the greatest wrist shots in NHL history. For anyone who watched Joe Sakic when he came up the wing, he if he took a wrist shot, it was probably going in. One Hart, 2 Stanley Cups, and 1 Conn Smythe. 9th in both regular season and playoff scoring. He was a great playoff player. Scored all the big goals for Colorado. Again, not a flashy player, a great leader. Knew when to talk and when not to talk. And in the playoffs, he was a different player. He wasn't the greatest regular season scorer. He was just very consistent. Only had 200-point seasons, but in the playoffs, that man could score. I mean, he scored all the big goals, overtime winners, and everything. He just did everything in the playoffs. I'm very happy he ended up winning cups because he did deserve it. They finally got a team that was good enough. And he was excellent for Canada in any tournament he was in. Played great when Wayne Gretzky was running the team, helped them win 2 gold medals. So Joe Sakic, Mr. Consistent, is number 8 for me. Now we go to 7 as we get lower and lower on this list. And we will start with Barbosa. Who do you got at 7?
I got Yarmer Yager at number 7. What can you say about Yarmer Yager? Skill, will, one of the hardest people to get the puck off. The guy just had his puck on his stick all the time. Great hands, knew how to score. And having the cups doesn't hurt. And plus playing with Lemieux didn't hurt either. And so that's why. And then in the mid 90s when Lemieux had to retire, him and Eric Lindros were battling it out for who was the best player in the league at that time. So that's why he's up there. And I believe he's top 5 in scoring, Reese.
He's second.
In
He's
scoring,
second.
right? Second.
Yeah. He's second all time. Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's played that long. He played till he was like 45 years old, I believe. So, yeah. So he's second all time behind Wayne. Jose, who do you have at 7?
I have my favorite goalie of all time, and it's Dominik Hasek at 7. I think Dominik Hasek was like amazing. Like for the teams that he played with, like even that Buffalo team that he's taken to the conference finals, to the Stanley Cup finals. He didn't have any fancy players or any great team. It was all him. And what made me pick him higher than Patrick Roy was that 98 Nana goal for the gold medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
When he shut down that team Canada that was loaded, and he shut them all down in that final. It was him and Roy, and he came on top. So to me, I think Cash and Czech Republic didn't even have they had a couple of good players. They had
Yager. They had Yager, but that's it. Yeah,
that's it. Like
Sakura,
it's not.
They had Yager, Sakura.
Yeah, nothing
If
great.
you want to go with Team Canada, you had Lindros, Wayne Gretzky.
I get it.
Yeah.
I know.
That was the Hasek show. That was the Hasek show.
Hasek put on the show that final, and to me, he will always be the dominator. And to me, he's my favorite top goalie of all time.
Yeah, I can't blame anyone for switching the orders on the goalies. I mean, you
No.
can just take them out of a hat, like no problem with that whatsoever. I'm going to shock some people with this pick. This might be the first pick that shocks me. I have Connor McDavid at number 7. Um, I thought about not putting him this high, but I wanted to project his career. He hasn't won a Stanley Cup, but when you're at 25 years old and you've got 3 Hart trophies and 5 Art Ross already, you're third all time behind Gretzky and Lemieux in points per game in both the playoffs and the regular season. Outside of him getting hurt, I mean, there's nothing stopping him from becoming like the third best player ever. Will he win a Stanley Cup? I mean, he's going to need some help. I think it's possible. I think he will eventually get one, maybe a couple. We've seen on this list, we have Alexander Ovechkin, who only won one. He's considered the greatest goal scorer ever. But I've never seen a guy with this size, speed, and stick handling ability in NHL history. I've never, ever seen a player play like this guy. I think this year really made me believe that he was even better because of the way he played on the defensive end. The knock against him was he was just an offensive guy who would try to go around everyone and score. Not only did he score 65 goals this year for the first time, he also played great defensively. He was chasing guys down. He was killing penalties. He was scoring goals from taking pucks off defensemen. He did it all this year, and I think that's what really impressed me about him. I think he had 150 points in this era. 150 points. I can't ignore that, despite the fact that he hasn't won anything and his career is not over. So I have him at 7, and I expect him to be even higher in the future. He's a remarkable talent, a remarkable player, and he had to do some. He had to convince me, and he has that he's one of those players. So I have him very high on my list. I know that's going to be controversial, but um, projecting his career, he's probably going to be a top 5 player of all time by the time his career is over. So I have McDavid at 7. Now we go to 6, and I'll start with Jose.
I have the captain, Mark Messier, at 6. What can you say? The man is clutch. Like, guarantees wins. They win. The man, Gretzky left Edmonton. He was the captain. They won. So even without Gretzky, the man is a proven winner. Great goal scorer. Man, you can't say nothing else. The guy, the stats speak for itself. The cup speak for itself, and it is what it is. And that's why they call him the captain, the Moose. So
Yeah, the Moose.
I got Mark Messier at 6.
Mr. Barbosa, who do you have at 6?
I have Joe Sakic, the second best captain I think ever. Reese, like you said earlier, he changed his game also. The way Steve Yzerman changed his game early on. That's when he had his 100-point seasons. It was early on in his career,
Yep.
and then he changed his game, and that's when Colorado became Colorado. Those teams would go to the playoffs and eventually win cups. As soon as he changed his style, like you said, deadliest wrist shot I've ever seen in my life. Right in the slot, you're not stopping that. The man had a crazy, crazy, crazy shot. And yeah, great leader. So he's number 6. That's why he's in my 6th.
And at number 6, I have a player that was called the captain. I don't know how he got this nickname, but he's called and it's Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman was called the captain. I don't know, that was his nickname in Detroit. Number 4 overall pick in 1983. Steve Yzerman is a player that, outside of Wayne Gretzky, had Gretzky not been in the league, he would have been a multiple-time MVP and Art Ross Trophy winner. Gretzky, unfortunately, decided that in 1980, no one else was going to win the Hart or the Art Ross. So, therefore, Yzerman had 153 points in a season and got nothing for it. So, scored 60, 70 goals, and no one cared because Gretzky was just, dominated the 80s.
Scoring 80, 90 goals.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get to him. Yzerman is 7th all time in scoring, and 11th in the playoffs. I think the other reason why Yzerman, wasn't recognized until later in his career, he's very quiet, very unselfish player. Didn't care about accolades. Didn't care about being the guy that stood out and was the best and all this. Plus, Detroit struggled in the '80s until they started drafting well. He did won 3 cups. He did win a Conn Smythe. That the Conn Smythe year was the year that he actually knocked out Gretzky when he was in St. Louis with that incredible slap shot goal in Game 7 against St. Louis in round 2, which knocked the Blues out and led to Detroit winning the cup. He also helped Team Canada win a gold medal on one leg because he messed up his knee, and he played anyway and helped them win. This is Jeffrey Bravo's favorite player. Jeff, if you're watching, I'm recognizing your man here at number 6. When he did get through and win, it was a great moment. I remember, and him winning another 2, he deserved it. They had a lot of issues, a lot of first round losses. They lost to San Jose and Toronto, big upsets early in his career, but they got over it. They got Bowman and a goalie, and they won 3 cups. So I got Steve Yzerman at 6. Probably one of the more underappreciated players in the NHL just because of when he played. Now we get to the top 5. Oh, I can't wait to hear this. We'll see what happens here, and we'll start with Jose. Who do you got in your top 5?
I got Connor McDavid at 5.
Oh, yes. So Jose's with me on this one. Okay.
I just think this guy is unreal. Like, dude, at 25 years old, and you've been all the accolades that he's won, like all these trophies, charts, and dude, the man is unstoppable. Hands down, the best player in the NHL right now. Like you said, this year he wanted to start proving that he can score more goals. Puts up 65 goals. Anthony, you listening? I told you Connor McDavid's better than Austin Matthews, hands down. And thank you very much. And next year, I won't be surprised if he scores 70. Yeah, like look, that guy. By the end of his career, I think he'll be top 2 or top 3 in the NHL records, and even maybe not even be top 1. Maybe not even the way he's going. If he can produce 150, 100 and something points a year, and the way the hockey players last longer than they do back in the day, I think the man can just get close to Wayne Gretzky. I'm not saying he's going to pass him, but try to get close to him. But to me, I think hands down, he's the best player in today's NHL, and he will win a Stanley Cup. I believe the man, if it's not in Edmonton, he'll go somewhere else and he will win the cup somewhere else. But McDavid will win some cups. I'm guaranteeing him more than one for sure. So I got Connor McDavid at 5.
Yeah, he may have to leave Edmonton to win a cup. That's true. But I think his relationship with Draisaitl might keep him there, because they're basically Gretzky and Curry. So we'll see. You can't. The thing is, I'm a sticker with cups too, but how can you fault a guy that's got like 70 points in 40 playoff games? I mean, I just don't know how you fault a guy.
And look who he's playing with. It's not like he's playing with crazy. Besides Draisaitl, sometimes they don't even play with each other in the same line. He's got like guys like Zach Hyman and freaking Yanamoto's and guys like, come on, dude. Even Zach Cassidy, like in the playoffs back in the day. And he took them to the conference final like a couple of years back when they lost to, I believe it was Anaheim or whatever they lost to. Dude, like it's not like the man plays all regular season, playoffs, everything. So
well, hockey's a team game. They need goaltending and defense, but he turned Zach Hyman into an 82-point player, which led to Jeffrey Bravo winning the pool. So that alone is enough for me. Barbosa, did I get to you for number 5? Who do you got at number 5?
I got who I watched is probably the best defenseman I've ever watched is Nicholas Lidstrom.
Yep.
You guys mentioned all the accolades, and plus, very smart hockey player. Very, very smart hockey player. Guy has an IQ, man, when it comes to the hockey. Not what we call a rugged defenseman. He just knew how to make the right play defensively. Just
positionally great.
Amazing. His stick work was amazing. Offensively, Reese, like you said, was just consistent. And how many How many best defensive trophies has he won in a row? Like 6 in a row?
Well,
I
he
believe he
has
won
7. He
5.
won like four
I
four in a row at one
four,
point, I think.
is
Yeah,
it 4 or 5 in a row? I know he
yeah,
won like 4.
yeah.
And then as soon as Steve Eiserman retired, he was made captain, and they still kept winning. He was a great leader. And like you said, Reese, as soon as he did come to Detroit, that's when they started to go on those cup runs. So that's why I have him that high.
And at number 5, I have Jaromir Jagr. Number 5 overall pick in 1990. Still hard to believe that he was number 5 with that haircut. Maybe that's why he was number 5. Second all time in points, 5th all time in the playoffs. He's won 2 cups, 5 Art Ross trophies. Those 5 were when Lemieux retired and he was facing Lindros and basically won the scoring title every season except for one when Lindros had more goals. Um, uh, uh, he won the one Hart Trophy, but unfortunately Dominic Hasek knocked him out of the playoffs that year. 2 cups. So Jagr is a guy that I remember when he was on the boards or in the corner, he can go through 3 guys and still score. When you tried to get the puck off him, if he put his stick out and put his hip out, you're not getting the puck. It's as simple as that. Great deker, one of the best dekers I've ever seen, especially in close quarters where he could drag his stick so close to his body and was able to maneuver the puck through you. Great backhand, just the stick handling to go around. He made goalies look stupid. I mean, just crazy, crazy stick handling. Never missed. I can't remember him missing a breakaway in my life. But unfortunately for him, and he's still number 5 on my list, but like after Lemieux left, he never did win again. And then he had some rough times in Washington and New York and had to leave the game and go to Russia, or he would have had even more points. And who knows what he could have done. But he did eventually come back, and he's probably one of the most beloved players in the league. I was one of his biggest fans. I was not happy when he left Pittsburgh, and I've had my issues since then with his attitude. But you can't deny how great a player he was and how beloved he was. So I have him at number 5 on my list. Now we will go to 4, and after 4, we will cut for our top 3. Jose, who do you got at number 4?
I got Sidney Crosby at 4. The man, there's nothing to say. The man's a proven winner. Stanley Cups, gold medals, game-winning gold medal goal. He's got World Juniors. He's got World Championships. He's the man. The accolades speak for itself. Freaking crazy backhander. The man's can score amazing goals. He can set him up. At 18, he's popping water bottles in the shootout in his first game. Like the man he's a great player. Great player. One of the best. I have him at 4.
Barbosa, who do you got for?
I have this was a bit of a tough one because you could flip up, but I have Mark Messier at number 4, the best captain. They call him the captain. He's their true captain. Won 3 cups, 2. I already won 4, 3 with Edmonton.
6 cups. 6.
Was he? Okay, 6 cups.
Yeah, 6
2
cups.
of them. So he won 4 with Gretzky.
5 with Edmonton, Gretzky. Right, and
one
with the
without
Rangers.
Gretzky, him being the captain, and then him being the captain with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Deadly shot off the wing, coming down the wing. Deadly shot. One of the best I've ever seen. In my early days of playing ice hockey, I used to mimic that shot because that was one of my favorite shots, coming down the wing and just sniping it. And just that when the chips were down and somebody needed to step up in the playoffs, that's the guy. That guy called all the shots, and in that 94, that Rangers Cup, that cup run, Mark Messier pretty much put that team on his back and carried them to that cup. So that's why he's number 4 for me.
And at number 4 for me, I did not look at Jose's list, but I have this Sidney Crosby at number 4. No, it's no secret of my love for Sidney Crosby. but that love is warranted because he's one of the greatest players that's ever played the game. He's a guy that came out, had all the pressure on him to be great right away. He had a team that was bankrupt that he had to support and try to help bring back. He delivered right away. In his third season in the NHL, he became the youngest captain to ever win the Stanley Cup at age 20. Something that the Leafs players that currently play for the team should watch and learn from. He scored that golden goal, which was one of the biggest goals in Canadian hockey history. After getting criticized the entire tournament for not being great. 15th all time in scoring and still going. 6th in playoff scoring. He's 1 point behind Jaromir Jagr. Will be passing him very shortly. 2 Hart trophies, 3 cups, 2 Art Rosses, and 2 Conn Smites. And for him to come back and win 2 Stanley Cups and 2 Conn Smites after those concussions is something that the NHL should and Gary Bettman should be arrested for not making a bigger deal. If he was an NBA or an NFL player who was great and came back from 2 years off with concussions, he would have been the biggest thing in the world. But because he's an NHL player, no one remembers that. Probably one of the greatest comebacks in sports history to come back from those concussions and be as great as he has been since then. So I think the world of Crosby, but I think he deserves to be the 4th best player on my list. And he's still going. And he'll probably play at least another few years. So I think his resume is pretty much cemented. But that's for me. His play along the boards. He's another guy who played a lot like Jagr, where very, very strong along the boards, great passer. And it makes players a lot better around him. Never really had a great winger until Gensel came around. He really didn't have a great winger. He made Chris Kunitz an Olympic player. Never really had a super winger for his whole career, but was still great. So I got Crosby at number 4. So now we're going to cut because we want to save the best for last as we go to the top 3. So we're going to do part 3 this is the end of part 2. And we're going to come back with our top 3. And this is going to be very interesting because I think the orders are going to be interesting for this top 3. So we'll be back for the last part and our top 3 on the Reese Report.